Hello children, I am going to continue with the same chapter 1 medieval period, the role of the monasteries and nunneries in the spread of Christianity. The religious order of the Christian religion were the priests. The priests are entrusted with the duty of spreading the teachings of Jesus Christ. And therefore, these priests who dedicated their life for the spread of Christianity lived in monasteries and they were called monks. You have studied that monks in English language, that monks live in a monastery and nuns live in a nunnery or convent. So a monastery is only a place exclusively for the monks, and the nuns live in the exclusively only in the convents. These monasteries that we are talking about were buildings surrounded by a vast area of land. A building, a strong building, almost like a fortress, surrounded by large areas of land. And these lands, in these lands, there were gardens, fields, ponds, agricultural land, bakery, name it, everything is there. Even all the monks had to do community service. That is, the head of the monk is the abbot. He is the head of the monastery. He admits monks to live in the monastery, and once a priest enters the monastery, he has to give up all worldly attachments and belongings. He cannot come in contacts his friends and relatives. He has to forget all the luxuries of life and live a life of austerity. In this monastery, There were libraries, kitchens, prayer room, storeroom, and residential quarters for the monks. These monks led a celibate life. That is, they were not allowed to marry. Even the nuns are not allowed to marry. And therefore, their life was totally dedicated to the service of God and for the spread of Christianity. Now, the word monk is derived from a Greek word which means alone. A monk was alone, all by himself. And that is why we see that monasteries were situated far from towns, cities, and villages. Each monastery by itself was independent. That is, that they did not depend on provisions from out. That is, that these monks had to do all the work in the monastery. Whatever work assigned to them by their authority. Maybe to work in the kitchen, to work on the fields, to bake bread, to plow the field, to wash the laundry. So one could not pick and choose the work out there. So the first thing that the people, the monks in the monastery, they learn is obedience. And obedience to the authority. These monks led a simple life, a very simple life. Devoting their time to worship and prayer. They were so prayerful that they spoke very little and practiced, as I told you before, austerity. A life of strict discipline. Their life was a very disciplined life and a hard life. No comforts, no hobbies, just a life of obedience and discipline. Now, when these monks joined the monastery, the first thing is that they had to be loyal to the order of monks. That is why when you join a monastery, you are kept on probation, a trial period. But once you are a monk, then you have to obey the rules and regulations of the monastery and obey the orders of your superiors, who is the abbot. So, Saint Benedict who was an Italian, formed the first order of the monks. He laid down the rules of piety, which is the standard code of a monastic life. These monks of the Benedictine order were called black monks. as they wore black habit. Black habit is the the garment which all monks wear. It was black in color. These monks were very reserved and were mostly in prayer. So, the Benedictine order of monks and the monastery was established was established by Saint Augustine of England. So Saint Augustine of England established the Benedictine order of monks who lived in the Benedictine monasteries. So the founder of the Benedictine monastery was Saint Augustine of England. But in 1910 AD, a new monastic order, which was formed in France, and this order was founded in Coligny in France. And they were called or popularly known as Colinics. The monks from this order of Coligny in France were known for their high moral conduct. And that is why bishops and archbishops were selected from this order of the monks. So these monasteries received a lot of funds and lands from devoted Christians, and the monasteries grew in size and in importance and became a very important part of the Christian church organization. Now, the life of a monk was also the service to mankind. So, these monks did or took active part in social service. That is, they helped the poor, they gave help to the needy, they helped the sick. So, service to mankind was an important part of Christianity because Jesus Christ also preached service to mankind. Love one another. Now, there was another role of the monasteries, and that was these monasteries served as sanctuaries. Now, I had told you that monasteries were situated far from villages, towns, cities, and whenever there was an invasion by the barbaric tribes, people from villages and towns ran for shelter to these monasteries. As you were told earlier, that monasteries were huge, strong buildings which were fortified. No one could enter. So the people ran to these villages, to these monasteries for shelter. That is why monasteries also served as sanctuaries. So the poor people ran for shelter to the sanctuaries. Here they were given shelter by the monks. They were looked after by the monks. And when the invaders left, these people also went back to their villages. So people took refuge in these monasteries. Monasteries provided rehabilitation to the people after the invaders left. So when the invaders came, the people took all the valuable belongings and went and deposited it in the monasteries. These valuable belongings, books, maybe money, maybe jewelry, was deposited in order to save it from the invaders. So, in a way, the monasteries became the storehouse of valuable articles. So, monasteries were not only sanctuaries, places to go in times of help, but people also sought refuge in these monasteries during times of calamities, like plague and famines. Because in these monasteries, a lot of social work was done by these monks to help the poor people to recover from their problems, their difficulties. So, here we end the role of the monasteries in the spread of Christianity and how the monasteries were used or functioned as sanctuaries. Thank you.